The ruling DMK in Tamil Nadu was vehemently demanding a halt in the ongoing SIR exercise across Tamil Nadu closer to elections due in 2026. Joining us now, Tamil Nadu's IT Minister Dr. PTR Palanivel Thiagarajan. Thank you so much for your time. If you can give us the larger picture, what exactly the DMK is worried about that this 3-month exercise could actually lead to large sections of voters be removed from the list?
Yeah, first let's think about what the actual process is. I agree with a lot of people, including many from the union government, who said this is not the first SIR, this is the nth SIR. SIRs happen all the time. They happened when there was a UPA government, etc. I completely agree. The intent of an SIR, as I see it, is very simple. Every now and then you have to cleanse the voter lists of extraneous entries. Now, extraneous entries can come by one of two ways. One can be by malintent, that is, they're introduced into the system. The other can be by neglect, by benign neglect, that is, somebody passes away or somebody moves and the list is not updated. Now, there's many reasons in the system why benign neglect actually happens quite a lot. It's not anybody's day job and you don't get incentivized to remove, right? In theory, much of these wrongful entries should be not hugely problematic if the election process on election day works well, because you have agents in the booth and you're validating and you shouldn't allow double entry and all that stuff. But I also am of the view that every now and then you should do a SIR and you should clean it up. Now, the last time the SIR was done here, as my understanding, in the rural areas was 2002. In the urban areas was 2005, date of the cleaned up list. Right. So, the intent that I see now is that list we already know is clean. Anybody who existed in that list only has to say, I'm still alive, put a new photograph, sign, and get automatically included in the list. That's the easy part. The hard part is anybody who is not in that list, and think about how the demographics of this country have changed. And I'll give you concrete data for my constituency in a minute. That means anybody who turned 18 or 19 after 2005, or who has moved from one constituency to another after 2005, or has moved from state to state, or any reason, or didn't get even though they were 20, they didn't get a voter ID early and they got it late. All these people have to go through an additional step of validating that they are who they are and they are where they say they are, location-wise, to have a vote in that place. Now, the actual mechanics of the process come into play. Let's take my constituency. There are now, according to the last list from the Election Commission as of October 30th or September 30th, or no, September 30th, there are 226,000 voters. By the Election Commission's own assessment, and now cross-referencing with the revision officer in my constituency, for my constituency, about 75,000 of them exist prior to 2005. Mm-hmm. That means about 150,000, that is 1/3 are there in the relatively automatic re-entry. And 2/3 have to go through some process to be re-entered. Mm-hmm. Now the problem starts. For these 2/3, you have to be able to get the forms to them with the right details printed, with the right people calling on the right house at the right time, with them producing the documentation they need. That has to be returned, digitalized and uploaded into the system and validated and put back in. So in my constituency, you're looking at 150,000 people roughly, assuming they all exist. Let's even give a generous interpretation that some of them would have moved or passed away and they've not. So let's say 10,000 is out. Still 140,000. The question now is, in the first 30 days, how many can you process before the first list comes out? Then in the revision period, how many can you process? And who is going to guarantee these things get done? The actual people out in the street doing this work, what they call the BLOs, the booth level officers, are usually government employees of the state of Tamil Nadu or whichever state, at a relatively low level of seniority, right? Anganwadi workers, fresh teachers, lower level corporation staff. These are the people who are the municipal administration. Right. These people, to the best of my experience, I've now come from 6 days of doing this work in Madurai, in my constituency. Many of them have not been trained adequately. 100% of them have full-time day jobs that they are continuing to do. The government of Tamil Nadu has not given them leave to do this. They still have to keep the government running. So they do it for 2 hours, maybe 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, 2 hours in the evening, something. And then the people have to be home to actually meet and work with them. So from training, from the printed forms being available in the right time, from the app that they use to upload. Many of them don't know how to use the app. And from the possibility of meeting every time you want to meet. All of these are limitations in the speed at which you can get, in my case, 140,000 to 150,000 records revalidated. Now you add in two more complexities. The first is that we are in the monsoon season. And so anytime there's a disruption, not only will it delay this process, but the government officer should go and tend to that and the recovery first compared to this. And the second thing is the time frame is so close to the election that if this process results in, through the lack of time, exclusion, then you're going to find people who just were left out because the system was not smart enough, fast enough to process enough people. So I think at the gist of it, at all of it together, we say we have no problem with the notion of SIR.
Right.
But if you're going to do an SIR, start it 6 months, 8 months, 1 year before the election, or start it after the election, we're okay. You start it so close to an election, you have a unachievable, in my interpretation, my personal interpretation, having spent 10 years in elected office, been a corporate executive, been an expatriate, multiple degrees, professions, consultant, banker, trader. This workload is not realistic. There will be people who fall through the cracks simply because you can't get that much work done in that little time with these many constraints. That's the overall kind of perspective.
Now, in the first 3 days, they have completed 78% of distribution of enumeration of the forms.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what fantasy that is. I have my data, which I'm checking with my district collector, who's the electoral roll officer. And the last I checked, about a day ago, before I left Madurai to go to Hyderabad and come here, we're at about 25-27%. So I don't know what 70%.
Election Commission's data, according to yesterday's, and
on the ground.
Right.
I'm on the ground, right? And if you look at my my booth agents of my party's data about what percentage of these forms have been returned, that number is closer to 10 to 12%. Right? Now let's start from the beginning. At most 33% of the people will qualify for automatic inclusion, right, in my constituency. Now I have not told you some other things. Let's take my neighboring constituency, which is Madurai North. I actually live in Madurai North.
Right.
I'm the MLA for Madurai Central, but I live in Madurai North. Madurai North as a constituency did not exist in 2005. It was only in the redistricting of 2011 that it was created. That means there is no 2005 list for Madurai North. Now, Madurai North will have zero automatic inclusion. Even the people who were 2005 SIR cleared will have been cleared in some other constituency. So they'll have to say, I was in some other constituency in 2005, therefore include me. That comes again in the second category. Right? It doesn't come in the first category. So the amount, and Madurai North has something like 300,000 voters, not 226 or 280 or something like that. So the volume of work is just so high, and I don't believe the 78%. 78% they may say is what they have given from the Central Election Commission to the district collector, maybe. If you say, has it reached the BLOs and is it on the ground? The answer is absolutely not. Not even on the way out. On the way out is not adequate. It has to come back in, right? That's my concern.
No machine-readable voters list or data by the Election Commission. How important is that, and why do you think there could be something more than what meets eye?
Look, I wrote an article in the Frontline magazine last year, in April 2024. In that article, I said that there are so many flaws in the process that one has to wonder, is it only incompetence or a failing administrative model, or is there actually malintent? That was my actual title And I made the comment in a follow-up TV interview that this was the low point of the functioning of the Election Commission and its standing as an independent institution of our democracy. For example, I'll tell you two clear examples. The first example is, back in the day, they used to give you the electoral list. When I started in 2016, the electoral lists were given to you in a Excel spreadsheet in a CD, back in those days, a CD-ROM, in addition to all the printouts and all. So you had the digitized data to help you do whatever planning you needed to do. Where should I focus? Can I validate these people? Can I compare which booths were good for me last time compared to this time? So anybody standing for election, any political party, any interested observer, any third party to validate, already started with data in a form that was usable. Because when we look at the numbers we're talking about, right? We're talking about 6 crore plus voters. Average constituency of 300,000 plus people. That means 300 plus booths. These are not numbers that you can do, like of a physical list ticking. If you have data in a machine-readable format and actionable format, it's hugely useful. So then, at some point, they shifted from Excel sheets to PDFs. But they converted the Excel to a PDF and gave it to you, so you could use software to reconvert the PDF back to an Excel. Then they have gone to a point where they convert the Excel to a PDF. Of course, they have it in a database, in a proper SQL database, I assume, but at least they have it in an Excel spreadsheet. Then they convert it to a PDF, then they print the PDF, then they scan it, and they put the image up inside the website. Now I'm saying, who is interested in preventing machine-readable access to lists? What is the democratic value? What is the principle based on which the public should not have machine-readable lists? Because when you have machine-readable lists, you can do lots of things easily. And I gave the example of what happened in RK Nagar. You remember what I said? That, and I'm not casting aspersions, I'm just telling you the facts. That RK Nagar was the constituency of the former Chief Minister, Selvi Jayalalitha. And what had happened was that after she passed away, there needed to be a by-election. The first by-election was countermanded because of seizure of money and all that. Then there was a second by-election. In the second by-election, before the by-election announcement and the voter list were out, the election commission, state election commissioner at the time, Rajiv Lakoni, announced that they had removed some 30-odd thousand, if my memory is right, closer to 36,000 people from the voter list. Think about removing 36,000 people from one constituency, right? I was alarmed. I was at the time the IT wing head of the DMK, and I said, one of two things is true. Either these lists were really rotten, they were so inflated by so many excess voters and duplicate voters that it's alarming to me that the last election's results may not be valid. Or on polling day, we're going to have a riot on our hands because so many thousands of people are going to show up at these booths and say, what happened to my vote, right? Anyway, we all got the data. And it was still machine-readable, convertible back. So we converted it back. And I sat personally at my computer overnight doing some analysis, and we found some 2,800 or 2,900 instances of the same voter ID appearing multiple times in the same constituency still, after the 36,000 removal. So that time I took it to the election commission and they did something about it. But I'll tell you how egregious it was. In this 2,800, 900, one voter ID appeared 6 times. Twice in one booth and once in 4 different booths. Out of the 6 times, 5 times it claimed to represent the same lady, aged about 28, with a Hindu name and the same husband's name. The 6th instance, it claimed to represent a 40-something-year-old man with an Islamic name and an Islamic father's name. How can the same voter ID have all this? Right? So anyway, if you have machine-readable, you can do all these things. If you don't have machine-readable, only the election commission can do these things. When it suits them, they'll allow fakes. When it doesn't suit them, they won't allow it. So I'll give you another example, extreme example. After I formed the IT wing in 2017, or rather the Chief Minister formed it, now Chief Minister, my party leader, asked me to create it from scratch. That is, his authority it was formed. I had to write a kind of business plan of what we were going to do, and then it became clear to me that election processes and election mechanics and data were one of the most important functions we could do. So we started retrospectively getting in all the information and uploading it and doing analyses. And we discovered that in something like 60 odd constituencies out of the 234, there were noticeable differences between the total number of votes polled according to the Form 17. You know the Form 17 which is signed at the end of the day saying that X votes were polled in every booth, and then you get, how many number of booths times 20 to 17. And the Form 20, which is on the counting day, the declaration of results signed by the returning officer. The Form 17 and Form 20 had huge gaps in counting, like in some cases, like 5,000, 8,000 votes. One says that, in both directions. It's one thing, it was only one direction. Sometimes they say 5,000 more votes were polled than were counted. Where did they disappear? Sometimes they say 3,000 more votes were counted than were polled. Where did they appear from? So you have to break it down by actual EVM, which means by actual booth. In booths, there were discrepancies. So we published this, and as we were doing this, the 2019 Telangana election came. And you may remember that other people did the analysis in 2019, and there were huge differences. How is it possible? On the day of polling, you say that in this booth, 800 votes were polled. On the day of counting, sometimes you only count 700 votes. Sometimes you count 900 votes. So once it started getting public, you know what the Election Commission did? It stopped publishing the Form 17. Now, if you are a transparent organization with competence, you go and figure out how the processes are breaking down, and you ensure that they are cleaned up and inspire confidence. You publish data that doesn't have a mismatch because your system is now working properly. If there's a mismatch, it means something is wrong. Not you go into obfuscation mode. Oh, you can only catch the... So what do? We actually train our staff, our booth agents, to bring that data back, and we as a party computerize all of it, and we discover discrepancies. Both in the 2021 election, 24 election, because we do it. 24 I was not the IT wing head, so I didn't do it, but even 19 and 21, because there was a long gap between polling and counting, you remember? In both elections, because of the multi-phase, multi-state and all that. So because we have enough people on the ground, we were able to get the Form 17 data as the physical Form 17, digitize it, and keep it ready ahead of time. And when we sent people to the counting booths, we told them, if the total count of votes in the EVM is different than this number, protest. Because we digitalized and distributed and analyzed and gave. And you know that polling happens 1, 2, 3, 4 to, let's say in my constituency, 213. Counting doesn't happen like that. You know that, right? Counting happens 14 tables. So 1 to 14 will be counted first. 15 to 28 will be counted. So the person who's going to counting table 1 must have the data. Not for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He must have for 1, 15, 29, 43, like that. So you have to be able to digitalize it so that you can cut it in a different way and send them for validation. Why should the Election Commission prevent us from having the data?
The reason is?
Then I have to ask the question, what is it? Is it incompetence or is it malintent? There are only two explanations, right? You are not fit to do the job. So you want to hide that you're not fit to do the job. Your system is so broken that you're going to have hundreds of discrepancies. Then we lose faith in the process. Or you purposely are doing something that you don't want me to know. How else? What is the explanation for hiding the data?
Now, the Supreme Court heard the removal of 65 lakh names from the Bihar voters list. It did not stay the exercise, but it ordered for more transparency and inclusion of Aadhaar as an acceptable document. Tamil Nadu has now moved, the ruling DMK has moved the Supreme Court. Why do you think Tamil Nadu's case is different?
Look, reading the tea leaves is not in anybody's skill set. But I'll answer your question. Remind me, I still got to give you back the number. Okay. I say it slightly differently. Back in April, May, when the budget was announced, I had made a announcement in my demand for grants reply that we would increase the number of Aadhaar enrollment centers that the government runs. You can do it through e-Seva, you can do it through hundreds of places. And we already took the number of e-Seva centers from like 8,000 to 28,000 or something after I became IT Minister in the last 3 years, or maybe 30,000. But anyway, specific Aadhaar enrollment services. And it was a general thought, because we can see rush come, around enrollment into college, around scholarship time, etc. 3-4 days ago, we started seeing a huge rush in the Aadhaar centers. Coincidentally, SIR started. So, Tuesday, today is Thursday. Yes. Tuesday, hurriedly, while I was still in Madurai doing groundwork, we got all the things together, and online I opened 50 new Aadhaar centers, Aadhaar enrollment centers, so that we can alleviate the crowds and make it faster. So, in my view, allowing for Aadhaar as one of the proofs is a huge improvement. Whether that will alleviate all the other problems of lack of training, lack of forms, I don't know. And what the court does, my worry is in a lot of these cases, and I just say this as a concerned citizen, by the time the court takes action, the court goes through a deliberative process of application of mind and asking for responses and all that. The government of India does everything like it was going out of style. Right? All their timelines are 10 days, 30 days, 50 days. I mean, some could argue it's unrealistic. The government doesn't function like that. Then again you ask, is it decisiveness or is it malintent that you want to do it so quickly? But it is what it is. Now let me just tell you.
But is Tamil Nadu's case different from Bihar?
Well, I would assume that Tamil Nadu's case has been informed by the outcome of the Bihar case, correct? Well, the Bihar case already heard and some outcome came. So by the time we go to Supreme Court, surely we are not going to make the same points.
Right.
And we start at a different place, no? As of 9/11/2025, which was what, 3 days back, 4 days back. In my constituency, the distributed forms were 22.76%. So I don't know where you're getting 75% from. This is distributed forms. As of this afternoon.
Whose data is this?
This is from the local
district administration.
Yeah, the local who is actually doing the distribution. From my office bearer sent me today and asked me that you need to run. I already ran like 1-2 hour session training everybody. Now they've asked me that I got to run many more training sessions for our party staff, because our party staff are helping the BLOs, because the BLOs are all at sea. And so we need to kind of, I can't train the government employee, so I have to train my party colleague who can then support the weakness or help overcome the weakness in this thing. But I'll just tell you one thing.
The AIDMK is opposed it, saying they're literally taking over the work.
So somebody has to do the work, sir. If they can do the work, they should do the work. We are not saying that only we'll do the work. I'm saying anybody who wants to do the work should do the work. 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, I'll tell you by booth for just one constituency.
Sure.
I mean one ward. Wards, I won't tell the number. There are 1,143 votes. As of today, 300 forms have been distributed. Next one, 1,093 votes. That one's good. 600 have been distributed. The next one, 533 votes. 300 have been distributed. Those two have done well. Next one though, 1,210 votes. Only 260 have been distributed. 1,277 votes. Only 250 have been distributed. So it varies. But I'm saying maybe the best case is 60%. Many are 20. I've given you my constituency average, as of 3 days back. So I don't know where the 17% or 70% all is coming from. This is on the ground. This is the reality on the ground.
In 2005, when the SIR was undertaken, at that time the DMK did not make a big issue as it does now.
I only
Are
ask you a question. Was 2005 an election year or not? Only one question answer me. Was 2005 an election year? It was not. 2004 was an election year for Parliament. 2006 was an election year for Assembly. We are not saying don't do an SIR.
So you're not spreading panic.
Don't do it so close to the election, that's all. Simple. It doesn't require a lot of thought. Right?
On the one,
Neither was 2002 an election year, nor was 2005 an election year. The state assembly election happened in 2001 and 2006. The parliamentary election happened in 2004 and 2009. You do it when there is no imminent threat of somebody being disenfranchised right before the poll. We are okay. We have no protest.
that's your worry.
Of course, it's my worry. That's what the Chief Minister is saying from day one. He's not saying don't do SIR. He's saying by all means do SIR. You should have had the foresight to start this process in June or July if the election is coming in April, or at least in August or September. You come and start it in November when the rains are about to come, or upon us. This monsoon is upon us, and you want to do it and finish it off because the announcement last cycle, the announcement came in February, right? How much time do we have left?
Last two questions. Tamil Nadu on the one hand claims it's a progressive state with a higher level of achievement in terms of education and a good IT infrastructure. But when it comes to SIR, the government claims we don't have enough IT infrastructure.
First of all, it's not our IT infrastructure. It is the Union government's Election Commission's app, and it's the Union government's Election Commission's contractors who are printing. None of this is done by the state. Okay, so it's not a reflection of the state. The second, and I don't know how to say this, but I will say it. I have been seriously disappointed throughout my time in government at the deep limitations in the ability of the government to deliver its intent. Go and look at any number of CAG reports. I'm not saying my party or any party. Go and look at the CAG reports for the last 10 years, not my state, any state. Look at the Government of India CAG reports. Look at the number of departments who are not able to spend their budget. Look at the number of departments who have not even spent 1 rupee out of a program. Right? So, coming from my 30 years of corporate and expatriate experience and 5 years in opposition, if you had to ask me what is my single biggest learning of being in government as a minister, I would say that governments all over the world, all over India, including the union government and all state governments, are far less effective in achieving their outcomes than I would have thought as a normal citizen or a former professional or a corporate executive or an expatriate. There's a broad spread. Therefore, what surprises me is if I, who came from 30 years of doing other things in other places, it's taken me only one term to figure this out. When you have, senior distinguished politicians of many decades experience, how do they devise and announce schemes like demonetization with 30-day windows, 60-day windows? It's not in the realm of possibility that it can get done, right? This fantasy that if you say so because you are powerful enough, it will happen. It's just a fallacy, right? It's a deep fallacy, and we have seen it multiple times, and this is no exception. So I don't in any way say that Tamil Nadu should take any special blame. Bihar it turned out bad. Tamil Nadu it will turn out with some risk. Bengal, wherever they're doing it, there will be a problem because you can't do this kind of volume of work. And sir, when is the last time we had full-time employees doing this work?
Yes.
Never. Even the elections are done all by part-time employees, right? Let's think about an election. Just take an election. Let's take let's take the state of Tamil Nadu's general election for the MLA constituency. How many booths are there? Some 70,000 booths. How many BLOs will be there, plus support staff, plus people who have to watch this, who have to get the forms, who have to issue the slips. In my estimation, my remembrance is good, but it's not quite good on the numbers. The cost is clear with me. It was about 300 crores or 400 crores that it cost, because as finance minister I had to sign all the slips retroactively after we came to office. But my best instinct is that for some 70,000 booths, plus all the other functions that are required, it will take maybe somewhere between 1.5 lakh and 2 lakh people working on an election. Observers, returning officers, validation of the forms, BLOs, BLO support staff, the people who go and set up the booth, who guard the EVMs, CISF, CRPF. Let's say between 150 and 200,000 employees who do this. How many of these, A, are full-time employees? Almost none. How many of these, B, have come from outside the other job cadre, and therefore are, like, let's say, either full-time Government of India Election Commission employees, or other state IS officers or other officers who are sent on what is called observer duty, maybe a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand. Let's be generous, 5,000. The remaining 1.5 lakh or 2 lakh are all people doing part-time work. How much training are they given? How are they selected? How many months before the election are they told what to do? I realized this early on, 2016. Right. That's why I focused so much of my time when I was IT wing secretary of my party in building the capability in the IT wing of at least holding the election commission to account. If nobody has good data, if nobody understands the process, if nobody understands the flaws, then a broken system stays broken. Right? So these are complex actual exercises. They are vital to the notion of democracy, that you should have kind of trust-inspiring processes. We don't seem to have that.
From Mr. Rahul Gandhi to several opposition ruled states, including Tamil Nadu, are opposing SIR, asking several questions. In a sense,
let's be very clear. We are not opposing SIR per se. We are saying don't do it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months before the election, because the process is a cumbersome, complicated process, and you are going to get variations and issues that you have never conceived, and you don't have the staff for it, you don't have the training bandwidth for it, they don't have the time bandwidth for it, they don't have the app skill for it. By all means, do revision. I am the first guy, I've said it multiple times. I gave you one example. I can give you 100 other examples where in my own analysis, I have found concerns about the voter list. I'll give you the most generic concern.
My question was, should the Election Commission be above board to establish its credibility and public confidence in it?
That's a self-answering question. Of course, the Election Commission should be the most revered, most neutral, most respected, like Caesar's wife, beyond the suspicion of negative intent, right?
Has the way it has functioned dented that?
Sir, 1 year ago, I wrote an essay detailing the many ways it is failing. And in the print, the subtitle was, "The Election Commission draws India to its democratic nadir, to its low point." In the online edition, it says, "Is this merely incompetence or is it malintent?" How much clearer could I be? I'm not saying it today, I'm saying it 1 year ago.
Opposition, particularly the AIADMK and its ally, the BJP, say the ruling DMK is preparing for an answer for the impending poll debacle, they say.
I think it's not a thoughtful accusation to make a counter-argument. I'll simply say it the other way. The first concern will be if at the end of SIR there are significant number of exclusions that lead to protests. Right? If there are not, then after that we'll worry about who can use it as an excuse or not. I must have a reason to have an excuse, right?
Right.
Let's even say that their fantasies are true. That means when I lose, if I'm going to say that it was because of that, surely there was an interim data point that should have occurred. There should be some big exclusion first There should be a protest about that exclusion first. After that, maybe I have an excuse. I have not even started the process in real flow. I have not even got to the outcome. Let us say that beyond whatever, let's say the Supreme Court steps in, gives us enough time, gives us enough support, gives us enough relaxations, which they did not do in demonetization, but let's say they do it here. They did it partially in Bihar. And let us say we finish the SIR by time extension, by better execution, by support from whoever, in a way that there is not widespread discontent about exclusion. Then after that, we're playing in a level playing field.
It's not an attempt to cover up the ruling DMK's failure.
How can there be? I don't know, sir. The process, time only moves chronologically. It doesn't go Monday, then Friday, then Tuesday. It only goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We start an SIR. We finish the SIR. Then they call an election. Then we have the election. How can I say that my election outcome, whatever the fantasy outcome is based on something when that process itself has not completed? At the end of the process, I'll know what the answer is first. Right?
Thank you so much for your time. That was Tamil Nadu's IT Minister Dr. PTR Palanivel Thiagarajan talking to us on why the ruling DMK in the state wants a halt on the ongoing SIR. In Chennai with Dilip, Sam Daniel, Find the TV.